As I mentioned earlier, there's always been some confusion as to the Business Alliance Chamber and Main Street.
Yes.
Could you elaborate a little bit on their differences and where the confusion came into the picture?
I think the confusion, it was because there were at one time two organizations, and then they both had part-time executive directors. And a lot of the businesses that were involved were the same businesses, and they would have one meeting as the DBA, and then they'd have another meeting as Main Street. And I think that was part of the reason for bringing them together. They all looked at each other one day and said, didn't we just meet yesterday with the other organization, and how is this really helping any of us? So I think that was part of the reason to bring them both together and have one full-time staff person to be the executive for both. But there is still confusion. The basic difference is this: the Main Street program focuses just on our Main Street district, which is from start on the west side at the train trellis on Main, kind of goes over and grabs where the community center is, goes down south to College Avenue, encompasses all of St. Norbert's, the Tilmany Mill, crosses over the river, goes north to Cass Street, except for one building that used to be a school, and then all down Broadway, and then a narrow strip down George Street, just that one block of George Street on either side, and then down to Winnebago, and then down to City Hall on the south along the east side. That's where the Main Street program focuses on, is on those businesses, those initiatives, those issues and potentials in that area. So Main Street just focuses there. The Chamber focuses on everything else. Looks at Main Street, since we manage that as well, and see how those things work together, but the Chamber focuses on the whole area, not just downtown.
I can appreciate where you're coming from as far as the Business Alliance and Main Street being kind of the same entities, at least perceived that way, because when I first became mayor, I was kind of an ex officio officer on each one, and we'd have a meeting in a local bank, and we'd have the meeting for the DBA, and we'd get done with that, and people would just switch chairs, and you'd have the meeting for Main Street. So it was kind of a little bit different on that respect. Took me a little while to get used to, but while we're talking about memberships, I know there are a number of businesses that are members of both the De Pere Chamber and the Green Bay Chamber. What kind of advantage would that be?
The two organizations really have different focuses. The Green Bay Chamber was actually formed back in the mid-'80s. At that time, De Pere had its own chamber. There was a Green Bay Chamber and the De Pere Chamber, and then some local business associations. There was concern that legislatively, especially down in Madison, that all of the focus in the state, and therefore the money in the state, was going to Milwaukee and Madison. And the thought was, if northeastern Wisconsin, which was at that time the third largest population center, really needed to have a combined voice legislatively to be able to speak to legislators. So the organizations were merged together and created the Green Bay Area Chamber of Commerce. Nearly immediately, as you know, De Pere created its own associations, and that took us down the road of professional businessmen's east and professional businessmen's west, and then ended up with the DBA, and now we're back to the chamber again. But the biggest difference is that still largely the Green Bay Area Chamber has a very strong legislative and policy advocacy focus, and focuses on the large picture regional things. We focus on primarily De Pere and our area just around De Pere. Mostly De Pere, but there are also area around us, because we don't live completely in a vacuum, and we have people who live in Alloway and work in De Pere, or drive through De Pere and shop in De Pere. So we want to make sure we look at those areas around us for our chamber activities, but we focus very much on our businesses, on our community needs, and do that in a way that the Green Bay Chamber doesn't, because they look at a larger area.
But we do have a very good relationship with them.
Yes. In fact, we've done joint ribbon cuttings, and we kind of laugh about it, because they have the green coated ambassadors, and our ambassadors wear red jackets, a little like Christmas when our ambassadors are together. We've done some joint events, which really works for the members. I'm very happy that we can do that. I think part of that, when you have both Rick and I, who are alums of the Green Bay Chamber, and we have very good relationships, especially with Marilyn Heim and Jeannie Agnesons, and so we do things together. We look at things very much the same way. It's best for our members, best for the businesses. Do it that way.
I know having our downtown split in two by the river presents a few challenges to the chamber and to everyone. Do you have any separate strategies for the east side or the west side, or is it just one type of strategy?
Organizationally, we have one strategy. We do things, there are some things that we do on the east side, some things we do on the west side. We don't do them because we do things on the east side and we do things on the west side. We don't do something on the west side because we've done something on the east side. We do things where they make the most sense. Like Fall Fest, for example. We close Broadway from the roundabout to James Street, and maybe this year all the way to Williams. There's no place on the west side that we could close a street and not have it severely impede traffic. So just logistically, it makes the most sense to do it there. We're working with the city and on your committee with the Riverwalk and Nature Viewing Pier. Well, that's not because it's on the east side, it's because it's in De Pere. So that's why we focus on it. So we don't have separate strategies. We look at the needs and opportunities and challenges and potentials on all through the community and focus on them as they come up.
In order to make any organization run smoothly, there's always a need for volunteers.
Yes.
Whether it's on projects, administration, events, or just doing the physical work. I know there are numerous committees that are connected with both the Chamber and Main Street. Could you just, I know you've touched on a couple of them already. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on what those committees might be and any other volunteer opportunities that you might have?
Oh, volunteers. Volunteers are the lifeblood of any member-owned organization, and especially our organization. We have a lot of committees people can get involved in. I mentioned beautification. If people ever wondered who does those beautiful plantings in the roundabouts and the plantings underneath the clock on the west side and the Christmas decorations, and no, that's not me. Thank God you don't want me to plant those. I can kill poinsettias. I'm told that that's impossible, but it is in fact possible. I do it every year. We have a committee that does that, and it's a wonderful group of people. We also have our Ambassadors Club, which I mentioned. We have a membership committee, we have a marketing committee, and then for all of the events that we do, we have separate committees for each of those. We have a committee for our Fall Fest De Pere S&C Day. We have a committee for our Fins and Feathers Pure Art Project. We have a committee for our Taste of Wine and Beer. We just finished with our committee for our Mardi Gras Community Ball. So people who like to do the fun things, plan the parties and plan the events, that's really good for them.